You set foot on foreign soil. Only this land isn't ruled by any country or government. In this land we celebrate music. In this land we celebrate games. In this land we celebrate those who compose video game music. Welcome to the VG Embassy. Welcome and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the VG Embassy. This is a show centered around video game music and the amazing online community of fans and podcasters that enjoy it. My name's Ed, and on each episode I'll take the role of Prime VGM Minister and invite a guest VG Ambassador onto the show to share with us their own video game music culture. Or I may share a part of my culture on a solo show. Today, I love these shows. Today we are doing another blind listen episode. It has been a while since we've done one. A lot of this COVID-19 and quarantine stuff has kind of screwed with people's schedules a lot, so it's kind of difficult to schedule one, but I'm so glad that we finally have one going. Today is a joint effort between two VG Embassy Patreon patrons. We have a game called Later Alligator, which was submitted by none other than Volts Supreme himself, and with me as my guest VG Ambassador and first-time podcaster, Daniel Perkey, aka Muddle MADness. Daniel, how are you today, sir?
I am doing well. Hello.
Awesome. Are you ready to guess some music?
Very much. With a game called Later Alligator, it's going to be a very interesting show.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea what to expect from this. To me, it sounds like it might be kind of a kid's game. Maybe an educational game. It's really hard for me to... The fact that I don't know anything about this game and that it seems like, from what Volts has told me, it seems to be more of a recent game. So it definitely hasn't come across my circles as far as the games that I'm aware of. I don't know, what do you think it might be based on the title?
I have no idea. This could be a fishing game as much as I know.
That's a good point. It could be a fishing game. It could be an alligator wrangling game. It could be a kid's book, like a visual novel kind of thing with a soundtrack to it. So I really have no idea. Before we start listening to the music, Volts has recorded several segments for us. Every 3 or 5 songs or so, he's going to give us some hints, maybe try to push us in the right direction as we go through the show to try to guess what kind of game this is. So for people that aren't familiar with the Blind Listen episodes, if you haven't listened to them yet, we take a soundtrack from a game that neither one of us has ever heard before. So basically one of my Patreon tiers is you get to pick a soundtrack that I'm not familiar with and join a guest who's not familiar with the game. And all we know is the title of the game and maybe the names of the songs if they're part of the official soundtrack. And we go through the show, we try to listen to the music, we take any clues that are given to us by the submitter, any clues left to us by the names of the music that we're going to be playing, and by the end of the show, we try to kind of figure out exactly what game this is that we're listening to. I'm always very nervous at the beginning of these shows because I have no idea what I'm going to be listening to. I have no idea if I'm going to be right or not by the end of it. I don't know. How are you feeling, Daniel?
I'm feeling pretty good. I think we can make this an interesting...
Yeah, I think it'll be a pretty interesting show, too. So, Volts left us a little bit of an intro to play before we get on with the music. So let's take a listen to that, and we'll be right back, and then we'll start in with the music.
Ed, mate. Dano. How you going, fellas? It's Bolts here. G-Wagon you from all the way down under. Fellas, I'm as pumped as a dingo in a ditch of dinky waldies right now, because this is going to be the sickest VG Embassy episode ever. Lads, this might not be a game about Crocs, but Gators have got to be the next best thing, right? Anyway. Oi! Burn off, you mongrel.
Charlene, shut the bloody back door. Bloody kangaroo's in my office again. While I'm trying to make something. This could be a real break for us, Charlene. You gonna screw it up again? Get out, you mongrel. Out! Get out of here! Get out!
It's a flaming ruin office. Anyway, fellas, I'll be back soon, but this is going to be a real fair dinkum treat for your ears, right? You're going to listen to some songs that are in the game later. Alligator. Have fun, boys.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I think Volts is really playing up his Australian roots on that one. So based on that, I mean, maybe the game does take place in Australia. I don't know. What do you think?
I was thinking it was a possibility. I know he was over there, and I was like, maybe this was a game that was only from there, that we didn't get over here.
It's very possible. I have no idea, but I do hope that he finally got that kangaroo out of his office. They should really close those doors a little bit more. So I think this is a good spot where we can listen to our first track. So the first song we're going to listen to is called Later Alligator. It's the main theme of the game. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about it and see if we can start figuring out what kind of game this is. We'll be right back. That was the main theme from Later Alligator on our Blind Listen special here. That was a really good tune. It was not at all what I expected. I expected maybe something a little more childlike, maybe something a little, I don't know, cheesy, synthy. I know Volts Supreme does his podcast, Volts Supreme's VGM Dream Stream Machine, and it's all synth music. So I was expecting maybe something a little more synthy and electronic, and this was anything but very jazzy, very swingy. I heard some oboe in there, some brush drums, a stand-up bass. Really cool stuff. Very classic cool. Oh, what'd you think of it, Daniel?
I thought it was amazing. If I was in that playing the double bass, I don't think I'd be standing still. Be dancing all over the place.
I totally agree. Yeah, getting a very like a positive attitude. I'm guessing maybe by the music that maybe it's not so much of a kid's game. Maybe it's, I don't know, I got kind of maybe like a point and click adventure kind of a game. They always seem to have like Sam & Max has that really kind of jazzy, swingy music. This kind of feels like that a little bit. I don't know. What are you leaning towards with this main theme for what genre of game this might be?
Genre? Maybe a platformer is where I'm getting in my head. Some kind of hand-drawn kind of platformer.
Okay. I can see that too, for sure. I mean, with a main theme, probably plays the title screen or something. It could really be any genre of music. It just wants to set the tone. So, I don't know, when we get to the other in-game tunes, we might have a little bit more of a feel for it. So that being said, let's move on to our second track. This one is called Johnny's Restaurant. I have no idea what to make of that. So let's take a listen and we'll be right back. All right, turn the lights back on, put out that cigarette. That was Johnny's Restaurant from the game later Alligator, presented by Volt Supreme for this lovely, very laid back so far blind listen episode of the VG Embassy. Ooh, I really like this tune. This is like, I like to call this kind of music audio Xanax. It just calms you right down. What'd you think, Daniel?
I was pretty damn good. It was there's that sad trumpet player up there that made it all the worthwhile.
I hear ya. Yeah, he's really letting all his soul bare up there. Again, we had that big stand-up double bass, brush drums, huge cymbal crashes. I really liked the cymbal crashes. They really punctuated the music and kind of just rang out for a really long time. It almost felt out of place at first, but then as I kept listening to the song, I was like, oh, this is just adding a little bit of energy to the song where it needs to be. And I really grew to like that part. I heard a little bit of cracking and popping over the music. I thought that might indicate that this may be on a record that was played in a jukebox in Johnny's Restaurant, perhaps. Maybe it's kind of, what's it called? Diegetic music, where the music is actually playing in the game, like the characters are listening to it as well. So, I don't know, that might be a hint of the kind of game that it is. I don't know, what do you think? You think this is still like a platformer, or are you aiming for some other kind of game now?
Well, it could be a platformer. It could be a cutscene spot where maybe a hub.
Okay. Yeah, maybe he goes to the restaurant and he goes into different doors in the restaurant, and there's different levels. Like he's got the men's room level and the kitchen level, the parking lot level. Who knows? Yeah, but maybe he's just sitting there looking at the menu, and you pick which level you want to play based on different items on the menu, and you hear this music playing in the background. Or we may be completely wrong. Who knows? But yeah, I really like this so far. I'm really interested in where this goes. If it's all going to be laid back jazz, or if it's going to have some pick-me-up stuff. Because I know Volts likes really energetic music. I know he's got a very wide taste, but most of the music that he plays on his podcast is like party music almost. It's really energetic. So I'm curious to see if there's any of that in this game somewhere, hiding deep. And maybe we'll get there eventually. So the next track we're going to play has a very interesting title. It's called Mandy, Do You Know Any Other Songs? And again, this is from later Alligator. Be right back. All right, that was Mandy, Do You Know Any Other Songs? From the game Later Alligator, on our Blind Listen episode here with Dan Perkey, aka Muddle MADness. I guess if Mandy were like hanging out with me and playing this over and over again, I'd probably ask her if she knew any other songs. It's a very pretty tune, but it could get a little bit repetitive. My question is, what kind of instrument do you think this is, Daniel? It didn't sound, it's like not really like a guitar, but not really like a banjo or a mandolin. Like I'm not familiar enough with a lot of those string instruments to be able to pick it out. Do you know what it might be?
My thought was a mandolin. That's what it was sounding like.
Yeah, I know with the mandolin music that I'm used to is very strummy and there's a lot of chords, and this seemed to be like individual string plucking. So maybe that's why I wasn't 100% positive on that. But I think of all of the instruments I mentioned, that's probably the best candidate for it. And her name is Mandy with a mandolin. Okay, you're right. Duh. Like, how did we not think of that? So Mandy has her mandolin and she's plucking this song, and how is this represented in the game? I don't know. What kind of thoughts do you have on that?
This one I was at a loss. I couldn't think of anything while the song was playing.
If it were like a point-and-click adventure, I could definitely see walking into a room where you're trying to solve clues or solve this puzzle, and Mandy is sitting over there in a booth, maybe in John Johnny's restaurant or something like that, and she's just picking away and playing the song over and over again, because the song loops, so it probably doesn't end in the game. And, eventually it'd be like, Mandy, do you know any other songs? Like, can you play a different tune? In a platformer or something like that, I can't really see something like that happening because you're always moving around on a platformer. Unless Mandy was like on a hot air balloon in the background, like playing the song as you went through the platforming level or something like that. I don't know. Volts also mentioned he wasn't like supposed to give me hints or clues, but he kind of let it slip that this isn't a traditional game. So I don't know what that means. So it might be kind of a visual novel kind of experience, in which case, you would be talking to Mandy, and she'd be playing this while you guys are chatting, but he could also be throwing me a red herring. It could be because the game has a whole bunch of different kind of genres mashed together. I really don't know, but I thought this song was really pretty. I thought that it felt kind of wistful, like not exactly happy, but not exactly sad. It just kind of felt like somebody was like nostalgic for old times. Like, I don't know, what kind of feel did you get from it?
Maybe you're right. Something like a song from the past she was playing.
Yeah.
Or he.
Yeah, something that Mandy's grandfather or grandmother taught them as they were learning to play the mandolin or something like that. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, so the next track we're going to listen to has a clue built into it. So the track is called Alligator Blues, and then in parentheses, arcade theme. So, I don't know, you think we're going to hear some synthy bleeps and bloops in this one?
That's a good possibility right here.
I think so. Or it could be another jazz song with just some like arcade ambient noise in the background or something like that. That would be cool too. All right, so let's take a listen to Alligator Blues, the arcade theme from Later Alligator.
I broke my teeth. Yes, I broke my teeth. Can't get no relief. Can't even chew my beef. From my tail to my nose, I am full of woes. That's just how it goes. Whoa, whoa, I bit my tail. Yes, I bit on my tail. Used to know it well. Now it's all out of scale. From my tail to my nose, I am full of woes. That's just how it goes. Whoa, whoa, go on now. Oh yeah. I broke my teeth. Yes, I broke my teeth. Can't get no relief. Can't even chew my beef. From my tail to my nose, I am full of woes. That's just how it goes. Whoa, whoa, I bit my tail. Yes, I've been on my tail. Used to know it well. Now it's all out of scale. From my tail to my nose, I am full of woes. That's just how it goes. Whoa, whoa, go on now. Woo! You got it. Oh yeah.
That's how it goes. That was Alligator Blues, the arcade theme from Later Alligator, Blind Listen soundtrack presented by Volt Supreme on this Blind Listen. So, wow, not what I was expecting, not anything like the couple of different types of tracks we thought it might have been before we listened to this track. I don't know, what were your thoughts on this one?
It was very delicious, especially if you can break your teeth on it.
Lyrical songs are always kind of hit and miss for me with video games, and I feel like this one was definitely a hit. It's dripping with atmosphere. It's very pertinent to the game. It feels like, you know, he was an alligator that was singing about his own blues. I feel like it's maybe an American game, like an American developed game. I mean, you can't necessarily tell that just by the vocals, but at least the vocalists seem to have a genuine American accent. So that clues me in it's probably not Japanese, because most Japanese games will have Japanese vocalists in there, unless it's a real AAA game, in which case they'll redub it in English. So, I don't know, that might be a clue that's at least a Western developed game. Kind of gonna put a Japanese developed game to the side. And I don't know, I feel like we're not getting a lot of platforming style music in this soundtrack so far. So, I don't know, I'm gonna kind of more stick with my whole point-and-click adventure kind of text-based thing. I don't know, I feel like this is really a song that could be played in the background while characters converse in the foreground or something like that. I don't know, what are you thinking at this point?
I'm not sure. It said arcade, and I'm not sure this is from the same game. This could be a song from an older game of the series that I was thinking, and they put it in this.
Now that's an interesting thought. That would really throw us off if it were soundtracks from two different games in the same series. But if you think about it, like, arcades don't mean now what they meant in, I don't know, maybe the 40s or the 30s, like, where this music is kind of like the time period where I'm thinking this game might be taking place in. You know, an arcade back then was more of a central meeting point, or like a boardwalk or something like that. It wasn't a place full of like arcade games like we think of now. So whereas I was thinking arcade theme might be more of a video game kind of a thing in a present day, I'm thinking arcade now might mean more of an entertainment area in a tourist spot or something in the world of this game, in which case this music would probably be much more appropriate. So I don't know, that's something to think about, though. I really did like the lyrics. I loved the voice. It had a very lo-fi quality to it, definitely like a monorail sound channel song. There was no stereo, so a lot of times when that happens, you kind of hear it coming from speakers inside the game. Like I said, that whole diegetic music thing. So I don't know. I'm still not cemented on what we're listening to here. I don't know. The next track is called That One Song from the Trailer. And what do you think we might be listening to based on that?
That one song from the trailer. I have no idea. I'm drawing a blank.
I can think of two things. I can think, one, maybe it's like they made a trailer for the game and this was the background music for the trailer for the game, the advertisement for the game. Or two, it's an actual trailer. Somebody's living in a trailer and this song is played while you're visiting a character that lives in a trailer or something like that. It could have a very literal meaning. So, I don't know. Let's take a listen to it. We'll be right back and we'll see if we can figure out if it's one or the other.
Alligator. After a while, crocodile. No matter how hard I try, I will never forget your smile. Alligator. After a while, crocodile. No matter how hard I try, I will never forget your smile.
All right, that was that one song from the trailer from the game Later, Alligator. So, getting like a Edison cylinder, like real lo-fi kind of phonograph deal from this song. Another vocal track, which is cool. And I don't know, so what do you think? Is it an actual trailer, or is it like a movie trailer or a game trailer? Where are you on this one?
I don't believe this is a game trailer. This might actually be from a trailer, inside someone's trailer.
Yeah, it has that kind of wistful, again, very, I don't know, those lyrics are later Alligator, after a while Crocodile, I'll never forget your smile, or I'm kind of paraphrasing there, but like very like 1920s, 1930s vocal music, like Al Jolson, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm thinking these guys really know their stuff when it comes to reproducing authentic, classic Americana music. To kind of mesh that with a video game, because you hear so little of that in video games outside of like maybe the BioShock series. It's really kind of hard to tell what kind of game this might be. I don't know, what about it makes you think that it might be from a trailer home rather than a movie or a game trailer?
It sounded more muffled, like it was coming from far away, like if your character was walking by it, it's like it was a built-in.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, so maybe the character's walking in front of the trailer and you can hear the music coming out of the window or something like that. That I can definitely see. That would explain why it might sound like it was being played on a phonograph or something. Yeah, okay, I can definitely get that. That's cool. So Volts has left us another hint, and he asked us to play this one before the next track. So let's hear what he has to say, and we'll be right back.
Ed, mate, Dano, you got pretty close there for a second. Thought you were actually gonna guess it. But nah, not a chance. Fellas, just when you think you got the red belly black in the bag, well, that's when this next ripper just comes out of nowhere. Sorry. Guess again, fellas. Guess again.
All right. Okay. He's taunting us. He's literally sitting here and taunting us. This is interesting. So I guess maybe the next couple of tracks, or at least the next track we're going to listen to, is going to really turn things around as far as the soundtrack goes. Interesting. I don't know. Any thoughts? What do you think? So the next one is called Cool Gator Games. What kind of music do you think we're going to get with this one?
I'm thinking water sports of some kind is what's popping into my head.
Yeah, I mean, considering that you're supposedly an alligator, and it's cool, Gator Games. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Maybe some mini games of some sort. I don't know. All right, so let's give a listen to Cool Gator Games from later Alligator. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe something more video gaming with this, especially based on his hints, based on the fact that it actually says the word games in the title of the song. Dan, you made an interesting point, is that we don't know whether Volts has named these songs himself, or whether there's an official soundtrack to the game where these are the names of the songs. So maybe if he's naming them, he's kind of throwing red herrings in there, or, you know, trying to be kind of opaque. Maybe they're not as good at the clues to the songs and the places that they play in as we think they are. So you can never trust anyone when you're doing a blind listen. So anyways, let's give a listen to Cool Gator Games and see what Volts has in store for us next. Let's hit it. All right, you just listened to Cool Gator Games from the game Later Alligator. Yeah, no, Volts was not screwing around when he said the next track is going to completely turn around 180 degrees on us. What'd you think of this one, Daniel?
Wow. Just wow. I mean, I'm speechless.
It was cool. I mean, a lot of really interesting instruments, very playful, very childlike, very cartoony. So, like, nothing like what we've been listening to up to this point. I have no idea how these two very different styles of music fit together in one game. Maybe this later alligator, maybe this alligator character has a very serious kind of point-and-click adventure style beginning, and then he joins these gator games, and it turns very cartoony and action-oriented. Maybe it's multiple genres. I have no clue. But I thought it was really cool. I thought it was just very chaotic sounding. Those synths almost sounded kind of like almost FM-ish in a way, but yeah, I couldn't tell whether it was coming or going. It just sounded like music for a crazy... See, now this, Dan, is where I'm thinking, like, now I could see this being played as some sort of like a crazy kind of platforming game, right?
Yes, or some kind of mini game in this, because it did sound totally different from everything else we did listen to.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, it would be interesting if this was like the only song like this, and the rest of it was all kind of just back to smooth, smoky jazz again. But I'm really curious to see now if it goes back to that, or if it stays in this kind of weird, wacky, synthy style tune for the rest of the show. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out as we go. The next track we're going to hear is called Unsavory Part of Town. So I don't know. What are you thinking about this one? Synthy, cartoony stuff, or are you thinking more of the jazzy stuff?
I'm thinking more jazz.
Yeah, with this kind of a song title, I'm thinking kind of the same thing. I feel like I'm going to hear some very bassy, kind of like film noir style music. Dun, 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 dun. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we will. Maybe I'll be proven completely and entirely wrong. I don't know. We won't know until we listen. So let's take a listen to Unsavory Part of Town from Later Alligator.
Welcome back. That was Unsavory Part of Town from Later Alligator. Now that brought me back all the way to Booster's Tower. What did you think, Ed?
Yeah, you were saying that this was probably your favorite one so far when we were listening to it, and I agree. This was really good. I did kind of have that bass line nailed down. It was only twice as fast as I was humming it before we started listening to it. I wasn't expecting this much of an energetic track. I did feel, like I said, it was going to be more of like a film noir kind of deal, but this one had a very up-tempo sound to it, and I love that baritone sax mixed with the mandolin. The highs and the lows really mixed well together. Again, you had that stand-up bass sound with the brush drums, so all of that together, like, they're just creating so many different soundscapes with these same instruments and just changing out the leads to give the songs a very different flavor. So really, really well done there. I'm wondering if it's just like a three-piece of multi-instrumentalists, or if they're having new people come on to play, you know, different instruments. I'm really curious to hear about the composer and figure out, you know, who created this soundtrack as we get towards the end of the show, because I'm really interested in hearing like other things they've done, if they've done stuff outside of video games, etc. What I mean, aside from it being unsavory part of town, what do you think is like happening in this part of the game? Like, why do you think it's unsavory but also very upbeat?
That's hard to nail down, since we really can't put a finger on exactly what type of game this is. This is still seemed to me like a platformer, but with not action, but more like going around and talking to people and maybe doing little things for them. But this is where you go to the unsavory part to have to maybe go get somebody and bring them back.
Okay, like an escort mission or a kidnapping mission, depending on how friendly you want to be.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I can see that, or maybe like maybe the trailer's in the unsavory part of town, or maybe John Johnny's restaurant's in the unsavory part of town, and this is where you have to, you know, walk through to get to those locations. I don't know. I feel like this is probably taking place during the day, and I can imagine just walking down like a 1920s, 1930s city street and seeing like these musicians playing on like a stoop on the side of the road somewhere, and people are just bopping along with them. Notes are like coming out of their instruments and kind of flying around. I don't know. I feel like I can see a very cartoony, almost like a Toe Jam and Earl art style for this kind of a scene in my head. Obviously not as alien as Toe Jam and Earl, but that kind of very vibrant colors, very solid colors kind of feel. I don't know, that's kind of what I'm getting anyways. Yeah, so very unique. Again, like with that Cool Gator Games track, no idea how that fits in with all of the other jazzy stuff that we've been hearing so far. So I don't know, we might get some more clues from our next track, which is Alligator Public Transit. So I guess we're gonna be listening to some music that belongs on a bus or a taxi or maybe a subway. I guess we'll find out when we get there. So let's listen to Alligator Public Transit. Be right back. You are listening to Alligator Public Transit from the game Later Alligator. Man, this is some public transit that I would like to take. I feel like You're in a subway car with velvet tapestries and dim lights, and the air is smoky, and the subway driver's a sad man playing a trumpet, and the rest of the passengers are all just playing their other instruments, and you're just chilling back, reading the newspaper, hanging out, completely falling asleep and going right past your stop, but you don't care because you're in bliss. That's my thought for this part of the game. What are you thinking about it?
I agree. I'm sure this would be the most enjoyable ride home from a long day of work.
Absolutely. And they probably have like free Manhattans or, shots of gin or something on the way home. Because it just feels like it would do that. You mentioned something interesting as we were talking before we came back, and I was noting that a lot of these loops are really short. We're listening to 2 loops each time. We're looking at like a minute to maybe a minute 30 per loop or less. And we were kind of trying to think about why the music might be on such short loops. And I forgot who it was. I think it was me that came up with the idea that maybe all of this music is incidental in some way. Maybe there's a lot of ambient city sounds or, country sounds or wherever you happen to be, but somewhere in this level or on this screen there are musicians playing, and as you walk past, you hear this music kind of waft from one side of the screen to the other as you pass by them. I think some of these might fit very well with that, especially like that one song from the trailer where it sounds like it's coming from a phonograph, where you might be passing the phonograph, or I don't know, like the other one, like Johnny's Restaurant, where it might be playing from a jukebox or something like that. So I think my opinion is that we're listening to a lot of that diegetic music, where the music is actually playing inside the game. The characters inside the game can hear the music the player is hearing. It's a very in-world kind of thing. I don't know, what do you think about that?
My thoughts are, how does this band get across this town so fast?
I know, man. They're carrying all these giant instruments with them, saxophones and basses and drum kits. You see them on public transit, you see them in restaurants, you see them in the unsavory part of town. I don't know, but they've got some talent, so maybe they have a manager or a giant truck or something to lug all their stuff around. Anyways, Volts has left us a subtle hint, according to the file that he recorded that I'm going to play. So let's hear what he has to say, and we'll come back briefly to introduce the next track.
Lads, sound like you're swimming down Dongawilly Creek without a paddle and 2 left legs. Alright, I'll give you a hint. Okay, here we go. This game has alligators in it. Oops, might have pointed to too much info there. Alright, I'll let you get back to the tunes.
Very subtle hint.
Oh, yeah. Very subtle hint there. Thank you so much, Mr. Volts Supreme. So we know this game has alligators in it. It's not just a euphemism for something. I guess we can at least take that with us. Although from that, what was that song? The Alligator Blues, the arcade theme. I was pretty sure that we were talking about real alligators here, because that was pretty descriptive in terms of the anthropomorphism of the alligator. And so at least now we know that we're on the right track in terms of real alligators being in the game, I guess. So the next track is called Seedy Gator Games, which is very similar to Cool Gator Games. So I'm wondering if we're going to hear some more synthy stuff like we heard from Cool Gator Games. And I'm wondering what's the difference between the cool ones and the seedy ones. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think we're going to hear this? Are we going to hear more synthy stuff, or do you think it's going to stay in the jazzy kind of instrumentation?
I'm guessing we're going to hear some really weird synthy stuff. It was already weird the last time. It's going to get even more different instruments, I'm sure.
All right, I'm kind of with you on that one. All right, so let's listen to CD Gator Games from later Alligator. All right, that was CD Gator Games from the game Later Alligator. Wow. No, this is definitely my favorite so far. That was incredible. What did you think, Dan?
Oh, that was really, really good. I want to hear more of this stuff now. It's not like the normal jazzy stuff. It's a little different. And it was not like the Cool Gators games that we've listened to.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, Cool Gator games like had this playful kind of quality to it. This one has a very, oh man, it blends so many different genres. I feel like it's got a lot of hip hop influence in there with those kind of stabby brass samples, but then it's also got really twinkly keyboard pads, a very jazzy backbeat, thick, heavy. I couldn't tell if it was a stand-up bass. I don't think it was. But like a kind of a synthy bass, like just really good, and it just really, and there was even some like screamy electric guitars in the background too. So all these different, disparate kind of instruments coming together to make this really cool tune, and I have no idea where it belongs in the game. I don't know, Cool Gator games, CD Gator games, and so I'm thinking maybe they're two similar types of mini games. However, one is like, I don't know, on a beach or something, like sanctioned games. Like here are games that you have to sign up for, participate in, you get a number, you win a prize or whatever. But then CD Gator games are kind of like the inner city version of those games. It's like the street hoop style of basketball, but they're Gator games.
We're not playing volleyball this time. We're playing dodgeball.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Cool Gator games, but with a kind of a violent twist to it, or something like that. And if that were the case, this music would really fit very, very well with it. Man, I'm trying to think here. So you said you did some research, and what'd you find?
I was trying to remind myself of where exactly alligators are, and I had to look it up, and it literally it says there's two types. One's from China, and one's over there in America. And I'm thinking this is probably a game based in America in the 20s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling like 20s and 30s. South. So, I mean, gators are very prevalent in Florida. I think Louisiana, down your area in the Gulf. So, I'm thinking maybe it takes place down southern U.S. in the 20s and 30s, or a cartoon variation thereof, if alligators are walking and talking, etc. I think at least we've got the location and the time period down. And it's just a matter of figuring out what kind of game it is. And the composer could be, gosh, I don't know. Could be the dude that did BioShock. Could be a lot of different. It could be a whole bunch of different people. Could be one composer did all the jazzy stuff, and then the other composer did some of the more, like the Cool Gator and the CD Gator games stuff. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we're looking at one composer for the whole soundtrack, or do you think we're looking at individual per style here?
I think we might be looking at different ones. And even the jazz, they could be a whole group of people that joined in to do most of the soundtracks on here.
Yeah. That's a good point. So, if we find any music that really kind of blends the two styles together, then we might be looking at one composer, but we'll have to keep our ears out for that as we go through the show. And speaking of which, our next track is up, and this one is called Nana Rue's Antiques. So this probably takes place in some sort of an antique shop, and if they're antiques from the 20s and 30s, then they've got to be really, really old things. So maybe the song sounds even older. I don't know. Let's take a listen.
Hello again. That was Nana Rue's Antiques. Really nice song for an antique shop. I'd be in there for a long time looking at everything they have.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was kind of on the money when I said that the song would sound even older. I mean, this has kind of a very mystical, like, I envisioned like going to see like a fortune teller kind of a vibe to it, like a very old world kind of feel to this music with that. I don't know whether it's like an oboe or a clarinet. It feels like it's in a lower range, like it's an oboe. But again, the mandolin in the background and just a very slow but very kind of wistful sound again. Like, I feel like all of these songs could be played in the locations where the song titles are saying. Like, not just like as background music, but as like actual music that you would hear in those locations. So, I don't know. It's hard to... That kind of makes me think that this might be like a point-and-click adventure style game, or like a visual novel style game, like 2064 Read-Only Memories or something like that, where like you go into a club and you hear like this dance music playing, and you're like, you know that you're probably hearing that music because it's playing over the loudspeakers in the club. You know what I mean? So this game kind of like feels like it has that same kind of feel to me. Anyways, I don't know. It's getting further and further away from any sort of action platformer, in my opinion. I don't know. What's your take on that? Do you think you still might be in the platformer realm?
I am in the platformer, but I'm still thinking I've gotten sort of something built up in my mind about this.
Okay, I'm all ears.
I'm thinking a platformer 2D, but you're a alligator detective.
Oh.
It might be a private eye is probably more accurate. And doing like little things for these people. Maybe you gotta find someone's dog. Go find a missing person.
Okay.
That's where I'm getting. Hand-drawn, cartoony, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely feel that. It does, like I said, have a lot of that kind of film noir quality to it. A lot of these locations that these track titles are talking about might be places that like a private eye might visit. You might go to the unsavory part of town. You might listen to blues in a club, or like, you know, visit a restaurant to talk to people about a crime that was committed or a lost puppy or something like that. And given the fact that song is called Unsavory Part of Town, means that the character's probably not from that part of town, or else it would just be his hometown. You know what I mean? So he's from an area above the unsavory part of town. So maybe he's a private eye or a cop or something like that that's from the better area, and he has to kind of visit all these places that he wouldn't normally go to get clues. And so the music is very prominent to him because he's not used to hearing that kind of music, all the smoky jazz and stuff that they don't play uptown. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. So we'll see how close we get. Speaking of unsavory parts of town, the next track is called The Alligator Underground. I hope this is like some rock and techno, but I certainly doubt I'm going to hear any of that. What do you think we're going to be hearing on this one?
Rock and techno would be nice. It could be a club called the Alligator Underground. Or we could just be going underground and hearing some ambient style.
Yeah, maybe he uses the Alligator public transit to get on the subway to go to the Alligator Underground. I don't know. We'll see. So let's listen to the Alligator Underground from Later Alligator. Be right back. All right, boys and girls, wipe those cobwebs out of your face. Blare up into the sunlight. Welcome back from the underground. That was Alligator Underground from the game Later Alligator. And that was creepy AF. I was not expecting... I was expecting maybe something along the lines of a darker tone, but that one had like witchy style, like really, really creepy, like backwards notes and stuff. It was like specifically designed to creep you out, and the composer did a really good job with this one. if they were trying to convey that, which I assume they were. What'd you think about this one?
I think this is completely different from every other track that we've heard. And I want to say that I think this is more than just one composer.
Yeah, you were telling me that. I don't know. I'm on the fence, mostly because indie games normally don't have a whole lot of composers. They usually just pick one and stick with it, mostly for monetary reasons. But there are a lot of very different sounds in this, and you'd have to be an extremely versatile composer to be able to do that jazzy stuff, and also a lot of this more kind of current electronic stuff, and do them both extremely well, which this composer is definitely doing. So I can definitely see the reason why you'd think it was two composers. I'm on the fence. I think it could be one, but I also think it could definitely be two. Like, it would be easy. Like, if it were two, it would be really easy to pick out which were composer A and which were composer B, and maybe even a composer C. But when I did the last blind listen with Rob Nichols, we thought it was a whole bunch of different composers too, and it ended up being one. So it just goes to show you that sometimes people are just really versatile and can do a whole bunch of different genres at the same time. So I don't know. What do you feel like this underground area looks like based on this music?
Dark, slimy, rats crawling around.
Definitely rats. Rats all over the place. Oh, I forgot to mention this before, but that whole Nana Ruse Antiques, that's like a French Cajun name, Rue, so I'm thinking maybe this is Louisiana Bayou stuff. Obviously, gators are very prevalent in the bayou, so I'm thinking I'm going to go with more of a, like I said, Louisiana, New Orleans kind of a vibe with this. And this Alligator Underground, this kind of voodoo-sounding music, I think really fits right in with all of that as well. So we've got another segment from Volt Supreme himself coming up right now, and he tells us that this one is a big hint. So hopefully he doesn't spoil too much. But let's take a listen. We'll be right back.
Ed, mate, you're struggling. Well, how about another hint, hey? Look, if I don't recall correctorily, I'm pretty sure you were playing a game earlier this year that had the same song maker as this game. But look, that's only if my memory's reading correctorily.
Oh, okay. So he's saying one composer.
He is saying one composer.
So it's funny that we were just kind of debating that. So he really kind of sewed that up for us. And it's a composer that from a game that I was playing earlier this year. I was just counting up. We were just talking on the Discord earlier today, actually, about the number of games we've beaten so far this year. And I've beaten 29 games so far this year. So I've got a 1 in 29 chance of being correct. I'm trying to think. I've played a lot of walking simulators and a lot of point-and-click adventures. I just mentioned 2064 Read-Only Memories. That was composed by 2 Mellow. God, there were a bunch of other ones as well. I don't know, 2064 had really electronic music. Like that CD Gator Games kind of, that sounded a little more like the 2064 stuff, but the rest of the stuff just does not sound anything like that game. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be him. What else? I don't know. I don't want to spend the rest of this segment thinking about that stuff. So let's listen to the next track. It's called The Great Gator Date. The Great Gator Date. You think he's going on a date? Or you think it's like a famous date in history? You think we're going to hear a little romance here, Dan?
He just came out of the sewers. I don't know what kind of romance is going to come from there. I am very interested to find out.
You know, I think the girl gator would have to be very in love with this guy if she's going to tolerate sewer stank on her boyfriend. So let's give a listen to Great Gator Date from Later Alligator. Be right back. welcome back. You just returned from the Great Gator Date from the game Later Alligator. I think this date was going swimmingly. What do you think, Dan?
Very much. Birds in the sky, clouds passing over. Great day just to have a nice walk through a park.
Yeah, maybe swim in a swamp somewhere with the gator that you love. Very playful. You know, it's funny because just talking about Too Mellow, this has like Turing's theme from 2064 written all over it. So I'm wondering if it actually is him. And that would be really strange that I just happened to mention 2064 earlier as part of that like whole diegetic music thing. If that's the case, then he's got a really good handle on how to fit music into locations and games. But this music, just with the little tiny like touches on each individual synth note, like how it kind of bends up, really reminds me of a lot of stuff that he did for 2064. So unless something else that we're listening to before the end of the show really steers me in a different direction, I'm gonna think that it's him, because that's the only composer I can think of, and I'd feel dumb not having a composer thought of by the end of the show. So I'm thinking, here's my guesses so far. 1930s, Louisiana, Bayou, You're an Alligator, composed by at least Too Mellow, if not Too Mellow, and some other composers. And yeah, how much of what I'm thinking kind of gels with what you're thinking?
Everything. I think the underground is not available out in Louisiana since it's so close to sea level.
Oh, well, that's a good point.
So I'm not too sure where this is going to be, but I believe everything else is correct.
Okay, well, you know what? You are clued in because, all right, so maybe this alligator character that we are controlling, potentially, is kind of a jet setter. Maybe he goes all over the place because the next track is called Alligator New York City. So maybe he's in the Bayou, maybe he's in New York, maybe he's in Florida, could be all over the place. So perhaps there's a spot where there is underground, and perhaps there is a spot where he is in the old city of New Orleans. But, I don't know, let's take a listen to New York City, and I'm thinking kind of a Frank Sinatra, real swinging Rat Pack kind of vibe for this. What do you think it's going to sound like?
I agree with you with the Rat Pack, because I'm thinking this is going to be a real swinging song.
Let's take a listen. We'll see how close we get. Be right back. Okay, that was Alligator, New York City from Later Alligator, composed by a mystery composer, presented by our pal Volts Supreme. And, okay, so not necessarily as much as like a Frank Sinatra tune as I was thinking it might have been, but it did have, I called it a little bit of New York flavor while we were listening to the track. That little accordion in the background, very kind of like a Little Italy style. You know, back in the 20s and 30s, there were a lot of Italians in New York City. There still are a lot of Italians in New York City. So I'm feeling like that big kind of immigration thing going on. Maybe that's where some of that inspiration for this New York City track came in. Well, what did you think?
I agree. It is a little different compared to the jazzes, and I was thinking too, maybe you were right. Maybe he is from the South, and then he has to go up north to New York City on this one.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. He's got some sort of mission, something he needs to do that sends him into different places around the country. And I have no idea what it is. Maybe it's the traditional rescue the damsel in distress, or maybe he's got to find somebody who's kidnapped something or stolen something, or I don't know. But I am getting a little bit of a detective vibe. I'm getting a little bit of an adventure vibe from these locales and from these pieces of music, so it's interesting. We've listened to just about all of the music for the game. We've got a couple of interesting named tracks coming up. I'm not sure if they belong in the game or if they're extras on the soundtrack or what, but we've got one more final hint from Mr. Supreme himself. So let's hear from Volts, and then we'll introduce the next track.
Okay, the platypus is out of the bag, the gig's up. Obviously, I'm so far away that I can't hear anything that you guys are saying. But here's another hint anyway. The song maker of this game has been known as a sneak man that can make his own original albums by recreating video game music that you could hum the bass line to. Okay, that's enough. I've been a mischievous boy with all these clues. But it's time to pump up the love with this next track.
All right, well, that's an interesting hint. That definitely puts it in line with Too Mellow, for sure. I really need to go through my phone and my backlog app and find out other games that I've beaten. Let's see. Death Road to Canada. What else do I have on here? Short Hike. Doom. It's definitely not Mick Gordon. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. Kentucky Route Zero. It's not Ben Babbitt for sure. Streets of Rage 4. I don't think it's that. It's I don't know, man. I'm gonna go with Too Mellow. That's the only thing I can think of that would have any sort of instrumentation that's even in the ballpark of this game. I don't know. What do you think about his final hint? Does it give you any clues or lead you in any different directions?
It leads me nowhere because I have no idea. But he gives me no clues.
All right, well, at least he's giving one of us clues, so there's something to be said about that. Yeah, so the next track is called Come On Everybody, Rave Mix 2K19 VIP Ultra Max, which I was like, does this really belong in this game? So I have no idea. So let's listen to Come On Everybody, Rave Mix 2K19 VIP Ultra Max. Get your glow sticks out, because I feel like this is going to be a party in a podcast. Be right back.
Yeah, a magical rhythm we sing. Check it out, yeah, the hit house scene.
right, put down those glow sticks. Tuck that tail back between your legs. That was Come On, Everybody, Rave Mix, 2K19, VIP, Ultra Max. Probably one of the most cliched dance songs I've ever heard in my life. Feels more like Rave Mix 2K05 or something. This is a very classic style kind of techno house tune. Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for words as far as why this is in the collection of music that we're listening to. Any thoughts on this, Dan?
The only thought I want is to see all the gators dancing in the club with their sunglasses on.
Yeah. I feel like a Jacksonville, Florida club would be perfect for this kind of a tune. I don't know. I feel like there's so many things I could say about that. I mean, the sample manipulation is really good. You know, there's a lot of just sample instruments, I guess, using voice as instruments. Some of that kind of like garbled, very fast phoneticism, like almost like arpeggiated in the background, with some of those kind of yells as stabs as part of the percussion. Like, that's cool. It's just a very generic kind of a techno track, so I don't know what it is or where it belongs. I'm interested to see if Fultz has any other information in his reveal at the end of the show. We've only got one more track left before the end of the show, and this track is called Surprise Track, and in all caps, Do Not Open. So I have no idea what to expect out of this one. It's about 1 minute and 30 seconds long. Dan, what do you think we're going to hear?
I have no idea. We just came out of that rave song, and we got blues and jazz songs and a little bit of in between.
Yeah, this could literally be anything. It could even be spoken word, maybe some dialogue between the characters. Maybe that's why it's all the way at the end, because it contains some spoilers. I have no idea. All right, so let's listen to Surprise Track, Do Not Open. We're going to open it anyway. We'll be right back. Okay, that was Surprise Track, Do Not Open, from later Alligator, composed by a mystery composer, presented by the very warped Volts Supreme, who is literally torturing us with this soundtrack. Like, what the heck is going on? So we get all of this really mature, smoky, bluesy, jazzy stuff up front. It starts getting a little synthy and cartoony, and then it gets weird. So we've got that really generic techno track, which does not belong in the time period that I was feeling this game belongs to, and then a very childlike, like, this is the stuff that I was expecting before we had heard any of this music. Like, I thought later Alligator was probably like a very kiddie style game, and would have very cartoony instrumentation. And this is exactly what I was thinking when I thought about that. I don't know, Dan, any thoughts where this might be in the game, why it belongs in the game?
No idea where it belongs in the game. A happy birthday song
Yeah.
by Mr. Kazoo.
I know. Well, I guess now we know what it sounds like when alligators try to play the kazoo. They do a pretty good job of it, too. To me, it felt like something from like the Rayman series, where they have a lot of that kind of like vocal instrumentation and nonsense syllables going on. I definitely got that kind of a flavor from it. Like a very music box kind of whimsical style again. There's a lot of whimsy in this particular soundtrack. Really, really interesting stuff. I don't know. So are you ready to have all the details revealed by Mr. Volt Supreme himself?
I'm dying to know.
Okay. So before we do this, what is your final theory about this game? Give me as much detail as you can think of, and we'll see how close it comes.
I'm going to stick with my theory of it being a 2D alligator private eye.
Okay.
Instead of action, it's more of puzzles.
Okay. Any particular country that it might have been developed in?
It's probably a Western. From America.
Okay. Any idea for a composer?
No.
Okay.
No idea.
All right. So I'm going with, just because there's a couple songs here that, and because of Voltz's kind of really, I think he thought they were subtle clues, but I don't think they were very subtle. I think that 2064 is probably one of the only games that I really, really talked about a lot on Discord with him. So I'm going to go with Too Mellow. I'm going to go with a Western, most likely American composer. I'm going to say it takes place in a cartoonish 20s and 30s America, starring an alligator, and that it is kind of a point-and-click adventure or some kind of visual novel style game where it's not a lot of action and a lot more kind of text or contextual stuff. And I don't know, let's see how close we come. So we're going to listen to Volt Supreme, Details Revealed. We'll be right back with the final information on Later Alligator.
Well, guys, you did pretty well. But you both should have known that these sounds can't be made using Sega Genesis hardware. So that was a rookie error. But anyway, drum roll, please. Guys, what you have been listening to is the soundtrack to the mystery point-and-click comedy Later Alligator from 2019 by Pillow Fight Games and Small Boo Animation Studios, and it was composed by Too Mellow.
Got it.
What a flaming good soundtrack. I hope you had fun, fellas. Hooroo, and thanks for having me on the VG Embassy.
Yeah, so I got the composer right. That was amazing. I felt like the clues were pretty on point there. We looked up a trailer. Dan and I watched the Steam trailer, so you can get this game on Steam. The game's got 500 reviews, and they are overwhelmingly positive. So this game seems to be really, really good. I did not expect this game to have come out in 2019. I thought it was maybe a little older than that. Looks like the game takes place entirely in New York City. And New York City actually plays a very big part in the game. It's like a character in the game. And it looks like it might take place like in the 70s or 80s, not necessarily the 20s or 30s. So the soundtrack really kind of threw me for a loop as far as the time period went. So I got some of it right. It is a point-and-click adventure. There are lots of mini games, as the CD and the Cool Gator games kind of clued us into. I don't know, what'd you think of it based on the trailer?
I thought it was hilarious, actually.
Yeah.
The drawings were just so adorable, but
it's got kind of like a Cartoon Network quality to it a little bit, I think. Like a regular show, or kind of that kind of a feel. Very solid colors and really good animation, a lot of different characters.
Oh yes, and lots of different places, even like the adult bar.
The very adult bar, yeah. That's probably in the unsavory part of town. I think we know what music plays there. So, yeah, I don't know. This looks really good, so I'm going to have to check this one out. So I'll read the description on the Steam page. It says, Pat the Alligator, a parentheses, mostly harmless, and parentheses, probably innocent reptile, is at the center of a conspiracy that could bring down the biggest, scariest family in Alligator, New York City, his own. Explore the city, meet the family, and try to save Pat before the clock runs out. So, yeah, this is really, really cool. Classic 2D animation from an award-winning studio, over 100 alligators, and at least 3 ghosts. Funny and family-friendly, perfect for all ages, very cool. 30 joke-filled mini-games and challenges, multiple endings, and a secret surprise, and an original soundtrack by the man, Too Mellow. So I'm assuming that you can also get this soundtrack on Bandcamp as well, because I know Too Mellow's got most of his soundtracks up there, so I'll have to check that out as well. Man, cool game. Volts, thank you so much, dude, for introducing us to this really cool soundtrack and this really cool game. After almost every single blind listen, I've gone out and bought the game that the soundtrack is from and have had a blast playing it, so I can't wait to check this one out. Dan, final thoughts. Like, what are your... did you have fun? I hope you had fun doing the show.
No, this is a boring show. I had no fun on the show.
Oh, fine. You'll never be on again.
No, I had a blast, and oh my god, Volts, that was such a great game to explore. I'm going to go look up, see if I can find it on Bandcamp, and I probably will end up buying it on Steam as well.
Yeah, I think, let me see if it's on any other platforms. Excuse all my tippity-typies. Let's see, it looks like it's out on Switch, Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and Mac. So, yeah, so you can find it. So if you have Switch, you can get it on the Switch. That's pretty cool. I'll probably end up getting it on Steam, just because ever since Animal Crossing came out, my wife has stolen my Switch, and I haven't seen it again. So, no, very, very cool. And, yeah, hopefully other people will check this one out as well. And it's, yeah, relatively recent. Came out September 18th, 2019. And it's gotten very good reviews from all over the place. I have no idea why I haven't heard of it before, but I'm, like I said, very excited to play it. Volts, I wonder if you have actually played this yourself, and if you did, I'd like to hear what you think about it as well. Yeah, so, Dan, thank you so much for hanging out with me. This was an absolute blast, and we've got some other themed shows in the works, some non-blind listen shows. We are both very big fans of arcade-style racing games, and I've been actually looking for somebody with a passion for that genre to do a show. Hopefully sooner than later, we can work something out and bring you back on to do some, let's see, Daytona and Ridge Racer and all those really cool arcade racers.
So many good memories to go with them as well.
Absolutely. All right, so to wrap up the show as usual, you can find the VG Embassy on iTunes, on Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, anywhere cool podcasts are found. You can head over to facebook.com/groups/the VG Embassy and hang out with me on there. On Twitter, you can find me at the VG Embassy and Instagram at the VG Embassy. You can also go to thevgembassy.com, and there at the top of the page, you'll see links to our Discord group and our Patreon page, or you can visit patreon.com/thevgembassy to check out how you can take a part in the development and the financial support of the show. As always, I'd like to thank all of my Patreon patrons at our tourist level: Cameron Childs, aka Bruce Irons of the Mad Gear, Michael Bridgewater from Forever Sound Version, Donovan Orofino, and Chris Murray. Our VG emissaries: Chris Myers, John Jekyll, aka Mixix Master, Ben the Dyad Dishman from the Dyad Presents a VGM podcast, Chris Steenerson from the VG Jam podcast, Jordan Worma from the Table to Stage podcast, David Parrish, Bedroth from the Very Good Music podcast, and Gannon11, aka Mike Stark from the Norwalk Gamers Symphony Orchestra. Our audio attaché members: Cameron Worma, Carlos from the Heroes 3 podcast, Scott McElhone, Dan Lawton, and newcomer Grioki. Our special agents: Volt Supreme from the greatest podcast, according to Volts, Volt Supreme's Synth VGM Dream Stream Machine, Muddle MADness, aka Daniel Perkey, and Ryan Steele. Our VG ambassadors, Alex, the Messenger from The Messenger Presents, a VGM podcast, and our patron saint of VGM podcasts. All right, man, I am looking forward to hearing all of the little incidental musics. Volts put together a little, basically he snipped out all of the little tiny stingers that belong in the game and put it into a short little file. And we're going to play the show out with those stingers. And yeah, guys, go head over to Two Mellows Bandcamp, pick up the soundtrack, head over to Steam or the Switch eShop, check out Later, Alligator. It looks like a really enjoyable romp. Once again, Dan, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had a blast.
Oh, no problem. It was probably the best thing that's happened this year, other than, because everything else got canceled.
I was going to say, that's not saying much considering the way 2020's gone so far, but hopefully the last half of the year will be a little bit better. And I am glad to provide some entertainment for you, at least for a little while tonight. And so you'll see us again in another 2 weeks with another episode of the VG Embassy. Take care, everyone. Or should I say, later, alligators.